Hi everybody, Tracy Brown, and what's on my mind today is full permission to eat. And the reason that is because I've had at least a half a dozen discussions about that this week. So I think if that many are happening in a week, then there are lots more people that's up for. So let's talk about it. Full permission sounds really good, and that's what we actually want, but getting there is usually a lot harder than we had hoped for or we think, just because we probably have lived so long in the opposite of that, meaning, we've lived with a lot of food rules. I know for me, back in the disordered dieting days, fat was the enemy. So I spent all day long trying to learn how to get away from fat. So when I went on this journey myself, I had to learn how to actually eat more fat, and that was petrifying. So what would happen, which I'm wondering if it's what's happening for you, is that I'd go ahead and eat some more fat, but then I'd restrict later in the day to quote unquote make up for it. So if you're in that camp, know that you're not alone, but just also recognize that's not full permission to eat. That's saying, well, I can have some over here, but I have to make up for it in the back end. And so that's not going to work. And so what I suggest is, really working through your fears about, let's say, whatever the food is, whether it's sugar or whether it's quote unquote processed foods. And by the way, every food is pretty much processed. You can't just go pick a strand of wheat out of the field and decide, okay, well, I'm going to eat this now. I mean, that has to be ground up and made into flour so you can have your bagel, or you can, even if it's your gluten-free stuff, you still have to make it from something. So, or even if it's your, whatever it is, even if it's your fruit and vegetables, somebody pick that, somebody wash that, somebody package that, and it's in your grocery cart. So everything's processed for the most part. That's not necessarily a bad thing. What we're actually really talking about is things that maybe have other things that weren't originally there. That's usually what people get pretty freaked out about. So I'm not saying, this is a whole nother video around the idea of foods that maybe aren't quote unquote from their original form. And so we're not going to talk about that today. We're not going to get into that, because I do think that the body will tell us when enough of anything is enough, including things that are more recent creations. Let's just put it that way. So back to full permission. Why that's so important is that we will never ever be able to get to eating more normally and naturally. And normal eating also includes some like play eating. It includes, sometimes we eat emotionally. Sometimes I eat cookies out of the oven just because they're yummier out of the oven, like when they're warm, and that's my preference. But that doesn't mean that I won't, that I'm not eating intuitively. I just know that I'm not hungry and I'm cool with that. Or that I just want to eat some candy because it was kind of a hard day and I want something fun to play with. But that doesn't mean that I'm out of control. And so I just wanted to put that out there as well. Again, permission to eat means eating what it is you want and listening for your cues and your body's response to it, and then making a decision about what's next. Not making up for something, not beating yourself over, judging yourself about it. So if we're actually coming from the other end of the spectrum, which I did both ends of that, is that if you're struggling with lots of emotional eating or lots of kind of deprivation driven eating or kind of some bingey habits and behaviors, it might feel like you actually eat whatever it is you want, but honestly, sometimes we don't want that food and we'd rather have something else. And so listening to that as well, and that might be hard, because then the other party's like, oh my gosh, am I eating the vegetable because I really want it, or I think I'm trying to be healthy, or what's my motive here? And those are really good questions to ask. With full permission to eat, we say, I actually don't want the cake, or I don't want the chocolate covered whatever. I want a salad, or I want a steak, or I want some tofu, and trusting that is not restrictive. And it just really depends on the context. So it's not that any way of eating is inherently bad. It's more about what is it that I'm trying to do with the food for myself. Okay? But I do want to say to those who are really struggling with eating a variety of food, really watch for the places where you say you're eating what you want, but then if you're hungry in 2 hours or have food thoughts in 2 hours, you probably didn't get full enough of it to feel satisfied and to be able to get the full effect of the body not wanting too much of any one thing. So if you're struggling with this, I mean, I totally did. I really needed some feedback to somebody to tell me, yeah, you're on the right track, or no, you're actually not eating enough, or actually, did you want to finish that? Like, what's going on there? To get clarity and to feel like that you're on the right track and that you can fully trust what it is you're experiencing. Not that you need me to tell you that, but sometimes it's nice. And it gets you there a little faster. So if you would love that kind of feedback or clarity, you know where you can find me, TracyBrownRD@gmail.com, or any other ways that I'm online, let me know. All right, I hope this was helpful. Talk to you soon. Thanks.